here for the second half of Ryse Pro Wrestling, February 8th of 2020. My name's Tre LaMar. You're still Paul Atlas.
I'm still employed.
And right here we are seeing the very bizarre Troy Wards making his return here to the Stronghold. The last time that he was in this building, he choked out Lewis unconscious. Drake Braddock looking for a measure of revenge for his military intelligence partner. But Troy is looking to take yet another step up the ranks here in Ryse. And this 18-year pro is one dangerous, bizarre athlete.
That's right. Don't let that exotic personality fool you. Troy Lawless is a dangerous individual.
The human personification of a can of Red Bull, the energetic, the eccentric, the Keystone State Soldier. Drake Braddock is back here in Ryse.
That's right, the genuine military hero, Drake Braddock. And he's here to get a measure of revenge for his running buddy, Lewis, against Troy Lords.
And there is the pit bull mentality of Troy Wards.
Like I told you, don't let that exotic personality fool you one bit.
Troy Wards has a PhD in mind games and a master's degree in mat mechanics. As I said, he's an 18-year pro and is as well versed as anybody. He was underrated for several years, and quite frankly, that drove him over the edge to what you see today in this very exotic display.
Well, yeah, one time Troy and I were actually tag team partners, and this was not his personality back then, but he feels over the years a lot of people overlooked his talent.
Beautiful leg work, an example of that talent right there. You know, Paul, I have to wonder, I mean, you were a tag team specialist. We've talked about it on a number of occasions. In many ways, with that military intelligence team, Drake Braddock has become somewhat of a tag team specialist. We saw him in a tag match just 2 weeks ago in our Baldwin debut. How do you think Drake Braddock will adapt to a singles matchup here after competing almost exclusively in the tag division here, as we see a beautiful tilt-the-world satellite head scissor?
One thing he's going to have to watch right now is his wind, his conditioning, which the Keystone Soldier here, I'm sure he's always out there doing the calisthenics and running the mountaintops, but you know, there's no way to tag out and catch your breath in a singles matchup.
Troy gets launched up into the lights. And let's not forget, as we talked about earlier, Lewis was one half of the equation that put Jim Sterling in power. Drake Braddock was that other half when they defeated David Lawless.
Yeah, you got to wonder what's on his mind with all this going on with our executive commander-in-chief.
So not only will he have to adapt to a singles matchup after competing primarily in tag team division, but as you said, he also has that mental strain weighing on him, as he could be, quote-unquote, partially responsible for Jim Sterling being in power here.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, we were all fooled by the guy.
Well, I thought Jim Sterling was so enthusiastic, wanted to help Ryse Pro Wrestling grow, really let more people have exposure to Ryse Pro Wrestling. As you can see our jam-packed crowd here. And it was all power. Sterling was in it for himself. It was an ego trip.
Well, we thought he would be using his huge social media presence to help boost Ryse Wrestling, when in reality he's just using it to boost his own ego.
Smooth transition from Troy here. Hangs on and drops Drake Braddock face first. Lateral press.
Hooks a leg.
And Paul, as much as we talk about the fundamental and necessary aspects of a pinfall attempt, that right there was pinfall 101.
Sure.
Body-on-body contact, hooking the leg, and that is the true sign of the established veteran that Troy Ward is inside those ring ropes.
Like I said, he and I were tag team partners for a while. Yeah, we went down the road together. Yeah, as much as I know about the business, this guy taught me a lot too. Do not ever sell Troy Lord short.
Drake shoots him in. Reverse from Troy. Troy charges. Drake goes up and over. And man, he's got Ward's all tied up.
This is, I believe he calls this the Draco Plata here. Submission maneuver.
Drake Braddock has such a natural agility that he blends in with that martial arts style. He really has an in-ring offense that is second to none here in Ryse. I don't think anyone has quite the game that Drake Braddock brings to the table. But he's in a precarious spot right now. Hung up is not where you want to be when you're in there with Troy Ward.
And here goes Troy to the top here. What's he setting him up for? Oh.
Guillotine leg drop. Almost psychosis style there. And again, you want to talk about fundamentals of pinfall attempts. Troy barred the arm with his hands and pinned down the other shoulder with his knee.
Sure,
a lot of times you see that in MMA when they try to neutralize a guard. That's exactly what Troy was doing here, but just in a different context.
Sure.
His objective, his goal in that case was to secure a 3 count, not necessarily to land unprotected shots.
No, he tied him up.
Absolutely. That's really next level stuff.
Well, you know, we talked about how him being underrated drove him to this persona we see, but it also drove him to master the skills even more so, as we're seeing here.
Oh, he has an obsessive nature about pro wrestling. I mean, this guy, without blinking, without flinching, will sit and you can vouch for this. Troy sits in front of the television studying matches from the eras gone by for hours at a time without blinking, without flinching.
You know, that is the one thing you got to know in this business, just like in any sport. Film study. Film study is the number one. Hold on.
Troy escapes. Continue, Paul.
Film study is the number one form of education in this business. Thank you.
And man, the bullet catcher is rolling. Throat thrust. That's a European style maneuver. Again, proof of that tape study. Oh, that was a nasty landing. That could have separated the shoulder.
Yeah, kind of an arm bar shoulder breaker variation there.
And almost an elevated chin lock.
But he's also got the knee in the back, and he's
twerking. The more that he pushes up on this chin lock, as you said, the more pressure. Come on, you freak. But Troy, a true ring general, reaches the ropes when it was available.
I knew exactly where he was in that ring.
What a night, Paul. I mean, for us, it's been out of hand.
Well, yeah.
When it comes to action, great contest here. Moriarty, MV Young. Tag action tonight.
I mean, not only for our capacity crowd here, but all the folks who will be watching this on IndyWrestling.us and the Indie Wrestling Network. You're seeing one hell of a night of wrestling here.
$5.99 a month. For less than one of those fancy cups of coffee, you can get hundreds of hours of wrestling content, original content. Schoolboy here.
And folks, if you can't afford $5.99 a month for all that, let me give you Jim LaMar's email address. He'll pay it for you.
Hey, what are you talking about?
Didn't you say you'd help him out?
I said I'd help you out.
Oh, sorry.
Drake puts on the brakes. And Troy suckered him in. Troy knew exactly what he was going to do in that exchange.
And look at him using that ring as a weapon.
That's a human chess match right there. Troy was thinking 2-3 moves ahead in that exchange.
Now has him tied up in there, those vicious cross faces.
And that could be the kiss of death right there as Drake Braddock.
How many times have we seen Troy Lords execute that maneuver to perfection?
Troy using his own momentum and gravity to inflict punishment. And the way that Troy moves inside those ring ropes is a little uncomfortable, and that's that head and arm choke. That's the same maneuver that choked out Lewis, and it may do in the other half of military intelligence.
Drake desperately trying to reach those ring ropes right now.
Drake Braddock has never quit in his life, but he's been choked out. He didn't tap out, but he passed out. Absolutely. Troy Ward is very quickly putting Ryse Pro Wrestling on notice. We said he was under the radar. We said he deserved an opportunity. And by any means necessary, he is putting Ryse and the entire Pittsburgh wrestling world on notice. He has arrived here in the Stronghold, and he is a force to be dealt with in this organization.
The world of pro wrestling, it's bigger than ever. So how can you possibly keep up with everything that's happening? Just pro wrestling news. Don't fear falling behind. Give us just 5 minutes every morning and we'll catch you up on the biggest news in the world of pro wrestling. No filler, no rumors, no spoilers, no pop-ups. Just pro wrestling news. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or tell your smart speaker to play the Just Pro Wrestling News podcast. Find out more. Go to justprowrestlingnews.com.
Introducing first, the company by Tyler Klein. From a yacht you definitely can't afford. Weighing in tonight at 24 karat gold, the fashionista of professional wrestling, Calvin Couture.
You want to talk about two snakes? Tyler Klein and Calvin Couture, two men that weighed the trap months in the making for BC Steel to stab his best friend in the back. And Paul, I did some investigating before we went on the air tonight. You want to know why BC Steel is not here?
I'm glad he's not here, but go ahead, you can tell me why.
He took an impromptu vacation, according to Calvin Couture. When I pressed on the reasons why, it's my belief that BC Steel was worried about RPW coming back here to kick his teeth in. So BC ran and hid like the coward that he is.
Oh, he ought to be worried about that. He backstabbed his best friend in real life.
So BC on an impromptu vacation because he's worried. He's looking over his shoulder that RPW may be in this building.
Yeah, it should be.
His opponent.
I forget to.
Tony, you fabulous!
I'd say thanks for that, but it's obvious.
Why does everybody keep calling me bald like I don't know?
This is some unique theme music.
From Brandon, Indiana, weighing in tonight at 190 pounds, straight crazy, Braden Lee.
This young man, Braden Lee, another athlete that is making his debut on this event. This guy has been making waves all across the independent scene, Paul. When he's arrived here in Ryse Pro Wrestling, a highly touted prospect. From IWA Mid-South to Chikara Pro Wrestling into AIW in Cleveland, Braden Lee's been making some treks out across the independent circuit. And if you're going to make waves among promotions like AIW, Chikara, and IWA, of course, when it comes to Pittsburgh, you got to be here in Ryse Pro Wrestling.
That's exactly it. You see these guys coming from all these different promotions. They're coming to one place, and that's Ryse Wrestling here in Pittsburgh to make a name for themselves. You know, Jim, I did a little investigating myself here, and found out that Tyler Klein was not too thrilled with some of the comments that we made about his ascot at our Baldwin event.
We've talked about his ascot, but there's a lot of things we could have called.
That's true. You got to be lucky he got away with what he did.
A snake in the grass, a con artist, a scam artist. Will that make him feel better?
Yeah. As long as you don't call him a guy who wears an ascot. He's fine with it.
Opening bell here. And despite BC Steel hiding with Jimmy Hoffa to avoid RPW, the odds are still tilted in Golden Sheik's favor because Tyler Klein is out here without a manager's license, by the way.
Yeah, you know what?
As much of a fraud as BC Steel is, at least the man has a manager's license.
I guess the rules are going to be a little more lax when it comes to things like that, thanks to our executive prime minister.
You know, Jim Sterling talking about politics, and somehow even Sterling isn't the most crazy politician that's around these days. And take that as you will, because you can apply that generalization across the board. You know, Paul, you'd be a good county commissioner.
I try to stay out of politics.
Come on.
I could see Senator Paul Harris.
Yeah, well, some people would say I did a lot of politicking back in the day, but hey, those guys are no longer in the business. And I'm still here.
I heard you paint houses.
Come on.
You never know.
Braden Lee working on that top wrist lock. Employed a back heel trip to get Calvin down to 1D, furthering the leverage. Smooth transition to the side headlock, and takes Couture down to the canvas. Why that's important? How do you win the matchup? On the canvas.
Calvin Couture turning it around there.
And we've talked about the physical chess match that we see evolves in these matches here. And that's what you're seeing there. Defensive and offensive wrestling simultaneously.
Yeah, once again, as we've stated before, do not let the flamboyance of Calvin Couture.
I'll just say it. Calvin Couture can be a nasty bastard when he wants to.
Exactly, that's exactly right. He's got a mean streak a mile long. For all his glitter and sparkly robes and fancy bow ties, this guy will also punch you right in the mouth.
Think about how many months they planned and plotted together to set up RPW.
Oh, without a doubt. And you know, the proof is right there in the fact that BC Steel won't even come back into the building.
And I don't know if this is breaking the fourth wall too much, but yes, Ben Steele was legitimately Bobby Williams' best man at his wedding.
Sure. These guys did a lot together in this business over the years. And to turn around and try to smack the guy in the back of the head with a chair, I mean, you don't get any more dastardly than that.
And if he's willing to do that to his best friend for the almighty dollar to get an advantage in the business world, how motivated does Golden Sheik have to be to get ahead here in Ryse Pro Wrestling? Nice agility from Braden Lee here.
Well, if our Baldwin event was any indication of that, as we saw Golden Couture, Golden Sheik International attacked Tony Johnson, our Ryse Grand Champion.
Miscue from Golden Sheik.
Oh, what a shame.
What a vertical leap.
Tyler Klein got knocked on his ascot.
Sometimes I happen to think that Tyler Klein is an ascot. Look out! Fosbury Flop takes out everybody. We said Braden Lee wanted to make a statement in Pittsburgh, and damn it, he's doing it.
This young man is turning out to be an amazing young athlete.
Paul, this is simple here. We live in the digital age. The digital age that if you can go viral, your entire career can change. The trajectory of your career can change. Brayden Lee knows that this matchup is going to be publicized through IndyWrestling.us, through our social media channels at Ryse Wrestling, on the Indie Wrestling Network. quite frankly, he stakes a flag out here in Pittsburgh, he will have the entire East Coast and part of the Midwest as his territory.
Sure, without a doubt. Like we said before, you want to make a name for yourself in Pittsburgh wrestling, Ryse is the place to be.
Interception from Braden Lee. Springboards his way in. Oh, got caught. We know how smart, how much of a ring general, high ring IQ from Calvin. He exploited that opportunity and got two. That's one thing we can say about Couture. He is very skilled, very savvy, very technical.
Sure,
But he also has that ring IQ.
Look at that cover alone. He rolled all of his body weight of his opponent over top of him, Braden Lee's, in an attempt to get that pinfall.
Braden Lee favoring his neck. And Couture saw it.
Yeah, Couture's
But referee George isn't going to see this, as I believe Klein is using that ascot to choke Braden Lee here.
Well, actually, it was the tape measure because he's still wearing the ascot.
And here's the nasty side of Couture. He was fish hooking Braden Lee's mouth before, again, he drops down on the neck. And again, that goes to his ring generalship and his ring IQ. He saw his opponent favoring a body part, and he's working on it here. Springboard miscue. And we're going to see how much Braden Lee wants to fight through the pain here. How much does he want it? But the odds are obviously stacked against him.
Once again, with Golden Sheik International, it's always that way.
You know, Paul, what irritates the hell out of me is Golden Sheik International, both individually and collectively, are very talented. They don't have to sink this low. They just take an ego trip to do it.
Sure, that's exactly right. That's all they want to do is be on top, no matter how and what it takes. They will do so, despite the fact that, like you said, these are all premier athletes.
And Braden Lee's debut in Pittsburgh may not be what he was hoping for, because Couture is really stringing the moves together.
Driving that boot right into the jaw of Braden Lee right now.
And that sinister smile from Couture tells you the story. Bona fide mean streak in that young man.
Yeah, but there his ego got a little bit better of him there with that lackadaisical cover.
Paul, what is so impressive about Couture, obviously not his attitude, he is such a natural inside those ring ropes. The man is only a 4-year pro.
Well, I'm impressed with his attitude. I never thought I'd see a man who would be a bigger ass than he is.
Look out here. Braden out the back door. German.
Lands on his feet.
Oh, man.
And he just lit Calvin Couture up.
That'll stop your heart. Big contact in the corner.
And another one.
Braden Lee's getting a second win. This young man is determined.
Lee rolls through again.
Unbelievable agility. Awe-inspiring agility. Springboard clothesline.
He caught him right on the jaw with that clothesline.
Paul, I'm going to say it right here. Win, lose, or draw, I'm going to see Braden Lee back here in Ryse.
Oh, he has definitely earned himself a spot here based on this performance tonight.
Braden hooks him up. Precarious spot for Couture. And he's making Couture think about it.
Yeah, look at the strength of this young man.
What core strength. Now, there was a slight hesitation before that pinfall attempt. I believe that's what cost Braden in that exchange.
Yeah, just that little bit of hesitation there.
And I believe Braden Lee's winning over this crowd as well, Paul.
Sure he is. Our capacity crowd getting well behind him here tonight.
Up and over he goes. Beautifully done. You can't say enough. Naturally gifted is Braden Lee.
Now, wait a minute now.
Paul, this is too much. Tyler Klein has to get out of here. He is ruining this young man's debut. Not that he cares, because it's all about Golden Sheik. But Braden's perched. beautiful shooting star, but no water in the pool. And it's because of Tyler Klein, and now Calvin's picking the bones.
The winner of this match as a result of the pinfall, the fashionista of professional wrestling, Calvin Couture.
Calvin Couture may look to prove that he didn't need RPW, but he sure as hell needed Tyler Klein, because Tyler Klein was critical to that victory for Golden Sheik International. There's no honor among thieves.
Once again, Golden Sheik International showing you just how dastardly they can be. And it's always a numbers game with these guys.
Hello friends, I'm your pal in the mainstream media.
And I'm the Ryse.
And you know, Ryse, it takes years of strenuous, dedicated training before you're worthy to step inside a professional wrestling ring. But it takes even more time to develop complex, highly astute opinions about professional wrestling. Am I right?
That is correct. And you know where we can find that?
Yes.
On the Wrestling Man.
That's right.
It is time for our feature presentation. My name's Jim Amato, your Paul Atlas. And just 2 weeks ago at our debut in Baldwin, which you can pick up at IndyWrestling.us and the Indie Wrestling Network, Jim Sterling decided to put Dr. Dan in a title matchup just because the ruling class wants the grand championship. They want that final piece to solidify their power. Dr. Dan didn't get it done. He came very close, but he didn't get it done. So of course, Jim Sterling, it's the next man up, and he just happens to grant the gavel a title shot just 2 weeks later here tonight.
Isn't it amazing how that worked out well that way for them?
Nepotism at its best. But we know that the gavel is top tier, as much as I hate to say it. The gavel is a real threat to the Ryse Grand Championship.
One more label try to stop me, it's gonna be some dread.
He is Tony Johnson. He is the Iceman. And you better damn sure believe he is the Ryse Grand Champion. The man that wrestled his way through the rise of a contender tournament. The man that finally unseated the dominant champion Matt Connor. The man that defeated Dr. Dan in Baldwin just 2 weeks ago. But clearly the ruling class has their plan. The Iceman doesn't sweat anybody, but you better believe he should have eyes in the back of his head here tonight.
Well, yeah, the one thing that Tony Johnson's going to find out, or actually is finding out right now, it's a lot easier to chase that title than it is to be the one being chased.
Introducing first the challenger. Weighing in tonight at 231 pounds, he's Executive Commander Sterling's Minister of Law. He is the Gavel, David Lawless, Esquire.
Lawless is looking very confident.
Well, wouldn't you if the deck was stacked in your favor?
And introducing the champion, weighing in tonight at 195 pounds, from St. Louis, Missouri, he is the Ryse Grand Champion, the Iceman, Tony Johnson.
He is as cold as ice. He lives up to his name. Tony Johnson doesn't sweat anybody, not even the ruling class. Once again, it is time for our feature presentation for the Ryse Grand Championship, February 8th of 2020. My name is Jim Lotta, being joined by the Pittsburgh legend Paul Atlas. The champion Tony Johnson defends against the challenger, the Gavel, David Lawless.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, David Lawless is no stranger to championship matches, as he's come within a hair's breadth more than once of beating both Matt Conard and Lee Moriarty as former champions, so he's no stranger to these matches.
And a cheap shot to get us started should shock absolutely no one.
No.
But as we're being brought to you here by IndyWrestling.us and the Indie Wrestling Network, we're going to find out just who will be the Ryse Grand Champion when we return to this building on March 7th, a little over a month away.
Yeah, and I have a feeling if you ask our General Prime Minister in charge of law, Jim Sterling, he would say that David Lawless is going to have that championship.
And when you want to talk about power plays and power positions, Jim Sterling swerved everybody. He made us believe that he genuinely cared about Ryse Pro Wrestling. He cared about his own ego. He wants to use Ryse as a platform to fuel his own ego.
That's exactly what he did.
He is the dangerous mind behind the muscle of Dr. Dan, of David Lawless, and MV Young. He's the general, and he has his soldiers in place here.
Yeah, this guy loves his titles. He's a general prime minister in charge of ruling.
And you know the title that matters most to him is that Ryse Grand Champion.
That's exactly it. I think this always a power play to guide one of his buddies to the Ryse Grand Championship.
If the ruling class obtains that Grand Championship, there is no one that has any power to stand up against Jim Sterling.
Well, no, he just makes up the rules as he goes along. Hey, my one buddy didn't win, I'll put my other buddy in there.
And as much as Tony Johnson scratched and clawed, it would be a shame if his title reign ended under these circumstances, but that's the reality that he's facing.
Well, that's exactly true,
and
Jim.
that's the change in the dynamic of going from the challenger to becoming the champion.
Sure, it's like I said, it's a lot easier to chase than it is to be chased.
And how Tony Johnson weathers the storm here, if he's able to stay calm as he always does, how he weathers the storm will determine. Now, and this is what I'm talking about. He was focused on David Lawless, has to turn his attention to Jim Sterling, allowing Lawless to sucker him to blindside.
Sure, and as the executive ruling prime minister in charge of ruling people, you don't think he's going to find himself, do you?
Trademark offense from Lawless, using the hops, the vertical leap to find 2. And the cravat-style headlock is going to keep the champion on the canvas.
Yeah, look at the way he's twisting Tony Johnson's neck here with that.
Man, again, the vertical leap. That's what I'm telling you. As much as it pains me to say the cover here, 2.5. As much as it pains me to say it, I get the pain right in the middle of my sternum. David Lawless is a well-conditioned athlete. We see it time in and time out.
Well, you can't take that away from him. It's his attitude and his arrogance that drives me insane.
I need a Benadryl after these guys out.
We all know how I feel about lawyers.
Surely you see why we are the ruling class. Surely you can understand.
I think with the amount of court costs you paid in your time, you could probably fund a wrestling promotion.
Oh, without a doubt. I'd even be able to pay you.
Oh, thanks, pal. And now this is David Lawless showboating in the middle of a grand championship match.
Oh, yeah, he's got,
again, an ego trip.
He's got Sterling out there, our chief executive officer, in charge of whatever he's in charge of.
Well, he's in charge of all of us, and that's what scares the hell out of me. If he wants to send us packing, he has the authority to do so.
Well, I told you, I got that letter. I almost thought I was.
And Lawless just chop-blocked Tony Johnson, who is screaming in agony right now, and this does not bode well for the Ryse Grand Champion.
Look at that, like a wild animal. Lawless going right after that knee.
Twisting and contorting the knee before he drove it into the canvas.
Oh, it hurts.
And Paul, obviously the reason you're sitting up here is because of knee injuries.
Yes.
How do you deal with a knee injury? I'll come up with a disrespectful.
What in the world is he?
He's slapping the champion, Paul. How much respect does Jim Sterling have for Ryse Pro Wrestling to slap the champion?
Took his glove off. I think he just challenged him to a duel. I'm not sure.
But as I was trying to say before Sterling interjected himself here, how does an athlete adjust mid-matchup when dealing with the knee injury?
No, it's very hard. I mean, that's your base. You can't stand. It's hard to fight. You gotta try to block that pain out.
And I'm not trying to sell him short because I think Tony Johnson is tremendous. But with that perceived knee injury, he could be on borrowed time.
Oh, without a doubt, I can tell you myself, I've had to wrestle through matches with torn meniscus, sprained ACLs, my knee joint dislocated. It's not fun. You've got to block that pain out, and you've got to press on. If Tony Johnson wants to remain the Ryse Grand Champion, he's got to forget about that knee injury and do what he can to get back on his feet here and defeat the Gavel David Lawless.
Well, this is the way Lawless wants to win the Grand Championship.
Oh, he don't care.
I hope he's proud of himself.
He damn sure is. All he wants is that title belt. He don't care how he gets it.
Well, there's no honor among thieves, as a great man once said, and I believe that tells you the MO of the ruling
Look out here. Lawless going for that figure 4 leg lock. Oh, Sterling now adding additional leverage.
And I'm going to tell you what, as far as being ring savvy, think of what David Lawless is doing right now. He is employing a submission attempt and a potential pinfall predicament at the same time.
You can't fault Nick Brown here. He's doing his job. He's asking Tony Johnson if he's had enough. He's watching his shoulders. All the while, Sterling's out here pulling on Lawless, adding pressure to that knee.
And I I believe that the gavel may have been caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, but now referee got to get in here and break that hold. There we go.
And I believe this Ryse crowd is telling Sterling that he should take a hike. The gavel ran into the back elbow, but the champion is staggered very heavily right here.
Yeah, he's definitely been slowed down now. Tony Johnson unable to use that leaping ability and agility of his right now with that knee injury.
Release German folds the gavel in the back of his head. And that may be the last swing for the grand champion. That may be the last shot that he has to walk out of here with that championship intact.
He's trying to fight through that pain right now.
Twisting backbreaker, but that may have inflicted just as much damage to Johnson.
Those twisting movements put a lot of torque on his own knee. Lawless now makes his way to his feet. Johnson goes for that bicycle kick.
Gavel's got him hooked up. Beautiful Northern Lights by the champion! And Paul, it was that knee.
Yeah.
He couldn't keep the base on the canvas because of the pain on that knee, and that right there is the only thing that allowed Lawless to escape.
Yeah, Johnson actually picked that knee up off the canvas to try to straighten it out because of the pain in it. And that gave the gavel the opportunity to kick out. Straight right hand now by Tony Johnson. He's going to try that springboard move.
Does he have enough? Paul, that's it. We got a new champ.
This has to be it.
How did Johnson kick out?
Incredible.
That's toughness right there.
Without a doubt. This is showing you right now just how much and how bad Tony Johnson wants to remain the Ryse Grand Champion. Gavel up and over now.
And you can see Johnson fighting with a sense of urgency. He knows he's on borrowed time with that knee. The longer this matchup goes, the more it favors the gavel.
Sure, most definitely.
Well, he can't do. Paul, this is going too far.
Johnson doing everything.
Johnson's going to hit the apron or the concrete, Paul. Look out, this is dangerous. Backcracker on the apron.
Yeah, but how much did that take out of Tony Johnson? He had his own back hit that canvas, hit that ring apron as well.
That was a car crash as both competitors landed on the concrete. And all of a sudden, the executive commander is looking a little concerned for his protege.
As he should.
Man, they both hit the concrete very hard.
Hey, how would you just throw him in the ring? Obvious.
And Sterling is imploring the gavel to get up.
This could be a count out here.
Come on, Blake.
Well, we have a
It's a double count out.
What do we have
The
here?
winner of this match. Nah.
You see, I don't think that Tony Johnson, champion of the people, would want this to end on a count out. Would you? The fans denied the decisive finish. This match is no count out.
Okay, well, I guess we're changing the rules as we go along here.
Now, of course, nobody wants a championship matchup to end in a double count out, but
Yeah, but it did.
they hit the concrete, Paul, and now the gavel's picking the bones. Paul, they both hit the concrete. This matchup should be over.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a 10 count. But our Chief Wario officer has decided that it's no countouts now.
Johnson out the back door, but he can barely stand.
Caught the gavel right on the chin with that knee. Going for that springboard again. He got him that time.
And he is emptying the tank here against the odds, against the stack deck. Turnabout fair play, and ace crusher from the Iceman.
Sure, I mean, let's face it, this match should already be over. The gavel kicks out again.
And I got to repeat myself, the longer this goes, it favors the gavel.
Sure.
Tony is still favoring that knee.
As this match goes on, that knee's not actually going to get better and heal itself. It's going to get progressively worse. And not only, should Tony Johnson pull this out and retain the championship, what about future?
How's he going to defend on March 7th? Absolutely. And he may not have to defend on March 7th. It may be the gavel that walks into this building as the champion.
Just that close. You can't get much closer than that. And the gavel is starting to rethink his entire life right now. What does he got to do to win this championship?
And how much egg on the face would there be for David Lawless if even with the odds tilted in his favor, he comes up short?
Oh, sure.
But then again, how much strategy, how many tricks does Sterling have up his sleeve? Gavel went for the low blow and got caught. And hit it that time, right in front of the referee.
The ref saw him. Calling for the bell is Nick Brown.
A blatant disqualification.
For this match, yoink!
Don't you just hate it when matches end with a disqualification? Doesn't that really suck? You see, as the executive commander of Ryse, I feel it is my duty to give you filthy, miserable peasants some random circuses to amuse you so you don't think about how miserable your pointless lives are. So, as an act of generosity, and to show that the ruling class aren't such bad guys, this match is now no disqualifications. Ting, ting, ting.
So wait a minute. These guys can do whatever they want until Lawless wins the title. That's what's happening.
Guessing that's what's happening is once again our chief executive vice president of whatever.
He's got more excuses than the Nixon tapes, damn it. And now
those damn 18 seconds. It'll get you every time.
And now he's putting Lawless's foot. Now he's getting physically involved. Putting Lawless's foot on the rope. So they're going to continue to make up rules until Lawless wins this match.
Yeah, it appears is what's about to happen.
It's BS, Paul.
And what can we? There's not much we can do about it.
Yeah, we got to sit out here and take it.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Our jobs are in this guy's hands.
And if you're Johnson, what the hell do you do? Back elbow.
I mean, what if he pins Lawless? Will be no pinfalls by the champion? Will that be the next rule he makes?
Well, we may never get there because he just spiked the Iceman. No!
Johnson's foot is on the rope.
Paul, he got his foot on the rope. Johnson.
No, referee is calling.
He absolutely had his foot called. We saw it.
And I believe our referee has seen it as well.
What the hell is going on? That's not his championship. We've got chaos in the feature presentation.
And now what's Sterling gonna make a rule no foot on the ropes?
Ladies and gentlemen, per the referee, Tony Johnson's foot was on the rope, thus constituting a rope break. This match will be restarted.
Paul, I don't know. Wait a minute,
Small
inside
package.
cradle, shoulders down.
He got him.
The winner of this match, as a result of the pinfall, the Iceman, Tony Johnson!
Tony Johnson has completely overcome the odds. Everything Sterling threw at him, everything Lawless threw at him. And look out, here comes that rat bastard FB Young.
Jim Sterling is going psychotic at ringside, and FB Young just cheap shotted Johnson. The ruling class is going to try to take Johnson out. We need help out here.
We got to do something.
Somebody, anybody that can hear me, get out here.
Look out, here comes military intelligence.
The same guys that Sterling burned in this plot are back here for revenge.
Well, I guess we know where these guys stand.
It's fine. It's fine. We only need time, Mr. Johnson. And I've got all the time in the world. So at the next edition of Ryse, you will defend your Grand Championship against the gavel, David Lawless.
Wait a minute. He had his shot.
And Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham.
Oh, now he's making it a handicap?
Handicap match.
So there's two more of his running buddies? This guy's insane.
Oh, wait. There's more. Military intelligence. You know, I like you guys.
I don't like you.
I managed you when I first came here. I thought of maybe even offering you a place at the high table. But since you decided to get involved, you, Lewis, and you, Drake Braddock, will fight each other in a loser leaves Ryse match.
What?
He can't do that.
What? Not only is he stacked against him.
Well, I guess we gotta sign off
Yeah,
here.
he's stacking the deck left and right here.
For Paul Atlas, I'm Jim Alana. IndyWrestling.us, the Indie Wrestling Network, RiseWrestling.com. We'll be back here March 7th. We'll be in Baldwin March 21st. Tony Johnson defends against the gavel and the doctor.
Military intelligence, one of these guys is going to be out of here.
Could the Grand Championship be doomed by the ruling class?